And
absolutely.
You said tonight that you might be flying people in a year in this thing?
In 2019, Elon Musk claimed that he thought that Starship would be sending people to orbit within a year.
And I think we could be sending people to orbit before the end of next year. You know, within a year approximately.
They didn't send people to orbit in Starship in 2020 or 2021 or 2022, 2023, and they're not going to do it in 2024, half a decade later. So in 2024, how long does Elon think it's going to take Starship to get to the moon?
I'd be surprised if it's longer than about 3 years to be landing Starships on the moon. Because the rate of progression of Starship is very rapid.
Yes, lots of progress, as can be seen by the video that they released before their latest launch. Yes, their pre-launch video for their third launch was SpaceX cheering like idiots at their last rocket blowing up. So much progress. So using the standard Musk multiplier of 5 times to infinity, we get a minimalistic time of Musk landing on the moon of about 15 years. But let's be fair, they did actually launch some rockets, right? Well, yes, but they're now 3 for 3 in turning billion-dollar rockets into unplanned debris fields in less than an hour. But wait, they're just rapidly prototyping this, right?
That iterative approach is a big part of how SpaceX does development.
And it's this methodology that's made them so successful in not reproducing what the Saturn V, a rocket designed with slide rules some 50 years ago, did on its first attempt. This was the state of rocketry before Elon Musk was even born.
Countdown for the launch started at the Kennedy Space Center at 6 a.m., November 7th, 1967.
You know, actually get a payload to orbit. Meanwhile, 57 years later...
Let's recap the achievements of our last integrated flight test.
The primary goal for Flight 1 was to clear the pad, and we did that.
Shown in animation, the second stage performed perfectly for more than 6 minutes.
The primary goal of Flight 2 was to get all the way to stage separation, which we did, and even got a little extra.
Like the first stage, the second stage cut off and separated almost exactly on schedule.
That burn, it experienced a rapid unscheduled disassembly, or RUD. That's SpaceX speak for an exciting end to the booster's journey.
The third stage ignited and inserted Apollo 4 into a circular orbit, where it would remain for some 3 hours. Flight controllers had to prepare the third stage for its first reignition in space, a capability which must be proved for the Apollo lunar mission.
For Flight 3, we've added some ambitious tests highlighted by an attempt to transfer several tons of propellant between the tanks inside Starship itself, as well as the first ever relight of a Raptor engine in space.
It does sound like we are skipping past the on-orbit relight demo this time.
And the opening and closing of Starship's payload door.
Saturn V, whose guidance computer had made over 300 million calculations since liftoff, had placed the spacecraft on course.
Meanwhile, SpaceX had a different idea for spaceflight.
I'll try spinning. That's a good trick.
The third stage and a test model of the spacecraft lunar module fell away. The launch vehicle had done its job. A few moments later, the spacecraft's own propulsion system ignited. As Apollo 4 climbed, a camera pointing out the spacecraft window photographed part of what a future Apollo command pilot will see of our planet, and began its descent to Earth. The spacecraft propulsion system again ignited. This burn accelerated the spacecraft toward a re-entry into the atmosphere at 25,000 miles per hour, the speed anticipated for the re-entry of the Apollo lunar mission. The command module, which would contain the flight crew in a manned mission, was separated, then oriented with its heat shield forward.
SpaceX went with the bold, iterative approach and decided to orientate the spacecraft with the heat shield pointing away from the atmosphere.
Could we have seen the actual command module on its path toward Earth, It would have resembled a meteorite from space.